Well, hello everyone. It's the live reaction show. It's that time of the week. You're with Steve Wyss, and on this occasion, I'm with Jack Wright, the English. What did I describe you as in the description of
I
this?
dread to think, Steve.
English soccer expert. I think I called you, Jack. So,
All right,
how
very
are you
kind.
doing? Are you well?
I'm very well, mate. You?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Apart from some bad beats today. Which
we haven't had a very super Sunday between us so far, have we? Obviously, I
very frustrated. I think late goals have been against a lot of the crew on the because we win team this weekend. Toulouse, I don't know how they blew it against Le Havre earlier. Missed penalties, missed chances galore. I think several of our handicappers have been. I mean, Nigel yesterday, we're going to talk about this, was extremely unlucky in the Wolves game. But we start things off as always. We're live in play on this reaction show. There's a big game on in the Premier League. Luton Town against Liverpool. Liverpool were really strong favourites to win this match. I think about a -2, Asian, jolly. And at the minute, it's 0-0. It's been a good game. It's been quite open. The goal line in play is over and under 2.5. Liverpool can be backed at -400 on the money line. The Asian handicap, I think, is about -1.5 now on Liverpool. But -1.5. After the first half an hour, what's caught your eye? Anything worth backing right now in this game, Jack?
Well, there was something that pre-game I wanted to keep my powder dry on this one, to be honest with you, because I was hoping that it would be quite tight. It could potentially get a bit feisty. So what I'm looking at is Liverpool games away from home have traditionally this season featured late goals. We saw 78th minute last away game against Brighton, but 3 prior to that, 90+6, 90+1, and 90+3. So they do like a bit of late action to Liverpool. So something to consider in about an hour or so's time, getting on board with a late goal there. But also like while it stays tight, Liverpool corners in this one. I think they've had one at the moment. Last time I checked, we were on one. So a way to go. But I think that could be something to attack later. And if Luton are still in it, I wouldn't be surprised. We might well see a few cards come out. So Andy Madley in charge. He's not shy of dipping into his pocket.
I did my research on him, actually. He's not issued a penalty in any Premier League game officiated this season and given just 2 penalties in his last 20. Wow. But if there's one team that might coerce him to end that run, it is Liverpool, although it might be on VAR because Anthony Taylor's on VAR. So I've been watching out for that. It reminds me an awful lot of Luton against Spurs this game. The first 20 minutes, Liverpool were on top. They were shooting. There were a lot of chances. And then they've settled down a bit. And that match ended 1-0 to Spurs that day. I'm not saying it's going to end 1-0 again, but I could see something similar where, Liverpool are going to be made to work hard to win this game. And they're going to have to show the bit of quality, which they've got. And eventually they've got to realise that. But I wouldn't be betting on this game before half time myself. Yeah. There is a couple of games I've been following though across Europe. I've had my eye on a bit of Brest in Liga. Monaco against Brest. Monaco, there's been 3 disallowed goals in this game.
Wow.
Legitimately disallowed, I must say. Monaco 1-0 up at half time, but it's been an open contest. I quite like over 2.5 goals at half time. You can back it at even money, straight on the nose. I think both teams are in consideration to hit the back of the net. But even if Brest didn't score, I think the 3-0 is very much in play. So I think over 2.5 goals there. And this German Bundesliga game, Bundesliga is the place for goals. It's Heidenheim, Stuttgart. There is a 0-0 at this point in time. Incredibly, Stuttgart have had 1 shot in this game. Heidenheim have looked more likely to score. We can now get a goal line at 1.75, which is incredibly low for a German Bundesliga game. And my gut feeling here would be to take the over. There surely should be at least 2 goals in it. That's what I would do. Now, we've got some questions.
10 minutes, haven't we? 10 minutes of the first half yet. So that's very appealing.
I would take that now. Just blind bet, really, on Bundesliga. I liked over 3 pre-game here. So, when you're getting this sort of goal line, Stuttgart have got to wake up at some point. Some questions from some viewers here. Derek van der Waal. Needy thoughts on refereeing in the Arsenal match and in general. We'll come to that. Layback says...
That's my picture of an Arsenal shirt I see there. Interesting.
Wolves game very unlucky. He's absolutely right. Live betting mistakenly bet a goal kicked under 3.5. Oh,
You're
right.
too
Well,
laid back, Ahmed.
that's
The trouble.
unlucky. You always got to be careful what you're betting on. We've all made that mistake at some point. But yeah, straight on the top of the itinerary is we can't avoid it. Reaction to the Wolves and Newcastle games yesterday. VAR. You know, we're going to give our opinions on it. We're also going to talk about VAR and how it affects betting, because ultimately that's what this show's about. First thing I'll say, yesterday, Wolves, there's no way that's a penalty. I don't know how it isn't overturned. And the Arsenal game, for me, it's not a goal because of the offside. Unless they've changed the offside laws, I don't really know how that's not offside. The other two aspects of it, I think, are debatable, and maybe you can stick with the on-field decision. But look, this is every week now, Premier League, this is happening. There's huge decisions they're getting it wrong, or there's big calls. I mean, what are your thoughts on the standard of officiating in the EPL?
Well, it's terrible, isn't it? Let's face it. I've seen and heard Mikel Arteta's views on it, saying that it's absolutely atrocious. And I think we've said about it. We normally have one or two decent officials, don't we? In English football, certainly, you normally go, you normally get a fair, decent performance out of this guy. He's normally 7 or 8 out of 10 every week. There's normally a couple, but other than that, it can be awful, can't it? And what we've done with VAR is we've just gone where we've got a good official on the field. We've stuck two dodgy ones in a studio for them to like ponder and pontificate over stuff and cloud people's thoughts and judgments. And you think, just let him get on with it. And I think we've talked about this at length over the last couple of years, haven't we, Steve? And we say most other sports have got it right with the video technology, and football just constantly gets it wrong, and it's getting worse. And you think, come on, most other sports is factual, isn't it? Is it in or out in tennis? Is it in line or not? Generally, LBW calls or catches in cricket and stuff like that, tries and so on. They're general factual calls. And what we've done is with football is seemingly kind of tried to make it more about opinion. You will have a different opinion on me on games and on incidents in a game. Why are we trying to like have opinions like cricket? You're a big cricket man, I know. They stick with actually part of it is
umpires call, and this is I think with football, I think the same has got to be done. What's wrong with sticking with an on-field call if they can't decide within 20 seconds, 30
clear
seconds,
obvious.
Right? Clear and obvious. Don't overturn it then.
Mm.
And I just think that everything is wrong about the system. Stuttgart just hit the crossbar, by the way, in the match against Heidenheim. So this match is really opening up. I don't know how there's not been a goal yet. And another chance for Stuttgart goes over the crossbar. This is a goal line that is too low, and I would be definitely looking at getting on the overs. But I mean, VAR, like I said, there's so much wrong with it. But let's talk from the betting side of things, because it has changed. If I'm betting in a league with VAR now, I can't celebrate a goal until it's kicked off. I just can't do it.
Yeah,
because it really mentally and emotionally it can make a huge difference. I mean, I always get people asking me, how can you get an edge on VAR? Like, is there a way of betting whilst decisions are being made? Well, the simple answer is no. Books have caught up to this now. They will suspend betting, and if you do get bets on and the outcome is changed, they'll just reverse it all. You'll get refunded. And so you can't get an edge that way. What you can do is perhaps it gives you more thinking time in terms of a match. What is a match going to be like after this decision? A lot of the times you know what the decision is going to be 2 minutes before they announce it, because you can just tell. We can tell, but it takes them forever.
Yeah.
Betting, I mean, how has the dynamics now of betting changed with VAR? What's different now, Jack?
I think it's hard to get, as you say, an edge on it, because generally everything's suspended. And you're right, it does give you a little bit of time to think, or what your strategy is going to be, if it's a goal or not a goal, or this guy's going to get sent off or whatever. How are you going to go and attack it, and then see when the markets reform. Kind of do what we always do pre-match, really. Get your prices in your head, what you'd be looking for a goal line bet or a unders bet or whatever angle you're looking to attack, and then if it comes up and you're the right side of it, get involved. So yeah, I think that's a nice point, that you have got that little bit of kind of a pause, so make the most of it. The one thing I'd just say is, if it's an outcome that is an absolute howler and it goes against you and your bet, walk away from it. Don't let it then cloud your judgment and bet in an angry state of mind or frustrated state of mind. Just walk away from it, because then you can get yourself in all kinds of trouble. If you're getting, betting, a large part of it is when you're successful, you take the emotion out of it. If you're betting in a high state of anger or frustration, then it can lead to all kinds of trouble.
VAR really frustrates me with the time it takes to actually make a decision, because I think it ruins game momentum. You know, a team might be well on top, they have a goal correctly disallowed, let's say, which is fine, but because it takes so long that they lose that momentum, they would almost rather it gets chalked off straight away.
Yeah.
And then you continue it. And it's changed the dynamics. And I think you've really got to think about it. But you're right, the mental side of VAR is difficult when a gut-wrenching decision goes against you. Yesterday, that Wolves one, never a penalty in a million years. That's the difference between, you know, those on Sheffield United handicaps. Over-under was a big thing. You know, it was the last kick of a game. But that's the game sometimes. I suppose you just got to pick yourself up, haven't you? But
well, look, the old adage, we've had this debate as well. Does it even itself out over the course of time? I'm not a believer in that. I think you just deal with what you get dealt with at the time. But you know, you are going to get ones that are going to go your way. If you are on overs in that, you'll be praying that you don't overturn it. You know, if you had gone overs in Sheffield United, obviously, you know, we were on the unders on that one, and it goes against us on that occasion. But yeah, as I say, I think I was a Newcastle backer in the Arsenal game, so I got fortunate with, you know, more or less instantly after getting a kick in the teeth with the Wolves one. I got lucky with the Newcastle one, but it's it's just a case of you just have to take it, don't you? And you have to try and not throw it out of your head. But as difficult as it is, and as you say, there's we've made a complete mess out of what should be a benefit using technology, which has got to go very wrong.
Let's go back to the betting then. I can't believe this. Another crossbar's been hit in this Heidenheim game, this time by the home side. How is this 0-0? I've not got a clue. Both sides have really been knocking on the door. There's 3 minutes till half time. So, I mean, I very rarely would I advise betting 3 minutes before half time, but it just feels like a goal's imminent here. Premier League to win. The outright odds haven't really changed a lot. Arsenal are out to plus 500 now with Bet Rivers. The top four race is very interesting. That's one of my birds in the background, by the way.
They were very, very bullish there, weren't they? They were up for that.
Well, yes. Yeah, I've had some issues with my quails, Jack. They've had to...
Arsenal fans, are they?
To separate them. They've had to separate them because there was some bullying going on.
Oh, dear. But, right. Frown on that.
Yeah, top four. Tottenham minus 162. Newcastle plus 200. Aston Villa plus 450 after they lost today at Forest. Brighton plus 500. I mean, the top four race now, we've got a big match tomorrow at White Hart Lane, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Against Chelsea. That was a good result today for Spurs, wasn't it? With Villa losing. They'll take Arsenal losing as well.
Yeah,
so
good weekend. You know, that one over than Man City for them. Obviously, Liverpool's still drawing at the moment.
Yeah, they are. So top four race. Where's the value now? Newcastle plus 200. Is that a good price for the top four?
Well, they've come. They had a real wobble, didn't they, at the start of the season? So anyone holding a ticket who went in after they'd lost 3 on the spin would be in very good shape now. They're looking back to how they were last season. We'll go back to the whole European situation. In fact, obviously, they've got those big games coming up in the Champions League and how that impacts them. But as it stands right now, since the Champions League has started, they've been in great form domestically. So they've been coming back from those games and doing very, very well. And before the games as well, for the European games. So, I think Newcastle are looking very strong. Look, I think the top three is nailed, isn't it? In whatever order you happen to think. Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal, I can't see any of those sides finishing out the top three. So where do we go from there to fill that one final space? And I think we can eliminate a few of those sides. And right now, Newcastle, what did you say they were plus 200?
Plus 200 for the top four with Bet Rivers. I mean, the thing I will say, Jack, it might become top 5. The current coefficient, right? 5th place will get you in the Champions League next year at the current rate. That's not a guarantee by the end of the season. But it might become a case where 5th position is good for someone. And that makes me very wary betting in this top 4 market now.
Good point.
You know, so, but in some cases, someone will finish 4th behind these top 3 or even above them. So, you know, it's always a case of value searching. It's difficult to do it without knowing the result of that Spurs game tomorrow night. So I think at the minute, we're best to look into this relegation market because this is where it gets juicy. And we're also going to talk about the sack race as well, because that's really opened up since the last show we've done. But to be relegated now, I mean, on the EPL show this week, Nigel Seeley said Sheffield United and Luton Town, that's 2 teams, they're gone. right? Sheffield United have now won a game. Luton look like they've been 0-0 with Liverpool at half time. Minus 670 and minus 500. Just briefly, Jack, why? I mean, for those who believe those two are gone, why are those two sides in massive trouble? And we might have lost Jack briefly there. Hopefully he'll come back very, very soon. Onto these, it looks like 0-0 between Luton and Liverpool at halftime. The goal line is at 2 now. Not a lot has happened really since we first came on air. And Luton have actually constructed themselves quite well in that particular game at the moment. Way out of here. I was asking some questions to me here. What's wrong with Elfsborg today? Yeah, that's pressure. That is our Svensson title pressure, I would say. When you need to win the league, win the match and win the league, then that's absolute pressure. But, Jack's just lost his Wi-Fi, apparently. He's going to be back very soon. Hopefully, we will get him back. But the goal line for Luton against Liverpool at halftime is exactly 2 on the Asians. Not sure why I'd go over or under there, to be honest. Might be a good chance of an exact push. Stuttgart match is 0-0 at half-time now. I had no idea there wasn't a goal over and under 1.5 goal line. You've got to be looking at the overs there. Monaco-Brest has started pretty well again in the start of the second half. There should be more goals, but I've seen a lot of chances missed today across Europe. I don't know what it is. There's been tons of chances missed, especially in France. It's just one of those days where teams are not converting their opportunities. But that is football sometimes. We were talking about the relegation outright odds. Sheffield United minus 670, Luton Town minus 500, and Burnley at minus 112 now. Before the weekend, they were plus 135, of course. We're going to get Jack back now. Just saying, Jack, about the Premier League outright relegation market.
Yeah.
Burnley now into minus 112 after yesterday's result. You both said, you and Nigel, in that EPL show this week, plus 135, I think it was value. I mean, anyone who's took that they're not laughing straight away, but they've got a smile on their face.
No, right? That's right. And you made a good point. I saw you posted yesterday about Vincent Kompany needing to change his strategy, needing to have a rethink about how he was going about his work. And I don't think he will. I don't think he will do that. I think he will be bullish, I suppose you'd say. It'd be that he's going to carry on doing it that way or the highway. And I think it might end up being the highway.
Maxime A asked, do I think Nice wins tonight? Yes. I'm going to say 1-0 to Nice. I think that will be a home win to 0. Looking at the unders there, I think Maxime makes sense with Nice. They have the lowest average goals per game in Ligue 1 this season. Really tight defence. Elias Nordheimer says over 1.5 in Heidenheim, plus the Reds to score. That's a good price as well. I mean, I think it looks like both teams will be scoring in this game, although Stuttgart other side, I'd probably trust more with that little bit of extra quality. Brest are certainly giving it a good go against Monaco at the start of the second half, I must say. They are knocking on the door. What do you think about shots on target over 1.5 for Luton, Jack, so far? I mean, half time, how many shots on target have they had so far? 1 shot on target. So
yeah, I don't know what the price is on that for another shot. I assume that is there. Obviously not seeing the last 15, 20 minutes of that because we were on here. But looking at the stats, absolutely. I think Luton will give it a go. We know what you get with Luton. That'd be nice and aggressive. You made a point that they go to the final whistle regardless, really. This is obviously a massive game for them. Again, you've got to expect Liverpool to score at some point in time in this second half. So that'll either be...
It's not going to end 0-0, is it? It's not. It won't be 0-0. Surely.
Famous words, but no, I'd be stunned if this ends 0-0. And so, on that basis, absolutely.
Tony reckons get on Napoli in midweek against Union Berlin. They've now lost 12 straight games in all competitions. We'll talk about Bundesliga a bit later. But and then also Maxime Bruno Genesio getting sacked. Yeah, he's always a man under pressure. It feels this time of season for Rennes. I like him as a manager, but I feel like they might need to get someone else in new. At some stage, the summer would have been better, really. But back to this relegation market then. if Sheffield United and Luton are to be, guaranteed bankers to go down, why is that, Jack? I mean, Sheffield United just won a game. Luton are fighting hard. Is it just that just are not good enough in terms of the overall squad over 38 games?
Yeah, I think so. Also, I think they've just it's sort of weight of money as well, isn't it? They've done nothing. Neither side have done anything that you'd suggest that they've got a great chance of staying up this season. And then you look at the other sides; they've got to finish above three sides, haven't they, to avoid the drop? And you know who's going to fall into those spaces. And you look, there's Bournemouth, I'd suggest, are the only ones this season really that have consistently looked terrible and are in that shake-up. You look at the other sides that we expected to be down there. Wolves, I've certainly kind of readjusted my sights on where I think Wolves are going and where they'll end up. I see them probably more as a mid-table side. Neto, a big loss for them, but they had chances to win that game in the first half yesterday, didn't they? They probably should have done. So can they finish above three other sides? It's very, very tough. And as I say, the squads are pretty poor as far as Premier League standard is concerned. I've said it from the get-go. If one side's going to survive, I still make it Luton as the one that could scramble the way out of it, purely because they're playing a different style of football, which a lot of sides aren't going to be comfortable with. And even if they lose today, this is Liverpool they're playing. That's not really going to be it's going to decide whether they're going to drop or not.
Yeah, Neto, you're right, is a big loss for Wolves. I mean, he's always do you remember the supermarket Neto? I always have a bit of a joke about Neto, like a bit of value here for that or whatever. Yeah. But he certainly is a big loss for Wolves. I mean, that third team, if to go down, Burnley -112, Bournemouth 150, plus 350 bar. Is there anyone like who could randomly get sucked into it? I mean, there's always a team in there from nowhere. Who, I mean, I'm looking maybe at like a Fulham here, someone along those lines, Jack, or is it just this season that the quality is so poor down there in terms of points that the rest?
It's incredible, isn't it? 11 games in, 4 points for the bottom two. At this moment in time, Luton are out. Given if they hold on to a point against Liverpool, which would be a stunning effort, and think of the psychological boost that would be for them as well if they were to pick up a bonus point here at home to Liverpool. But yeah, there's a bit of a gap already, isn't there? There's like a 5-point gap to Everton, who are sitting in 16th at the moment. And I'd be surprised, but Fulham can't score goals. They're powder puffing attack. They're terrible. I mention it every week, the same kind of scenario. They've scored 2 goals from open play at home in the league this season. I think 5 goals from open play across the season so far, across 11 games. That's going to get you in trouble because and they ain't got the defence that's going to be able to keep sides out week in, week out. So, out of the sides that are there, big win for Forest today, of course, unfortunately for my selection, but that's got them some breathing space as well. So, other than the bottom 4 as it stands now, if I had to put someone to get sucked into it, it would be Fulham. And what odds we got on Fulham?
I mean, plus 800 for Fulham to go down. Yeah. Which, I mean, I every time I see them, Jack, I'm like, how have this lot got so many points? And then if you look at their stats, their metrics, they're awful. Yeah. I mean, they clearly have massively missed Mitrovic. And I'll be honest, I think they could get sucked into trouble if they don't find a replacement for him in January.
Agreed.
Which they probably are. And their whole, transfer team, scouting team is going to be right now looking at strikers. They must be, surely. So, but again, it's quite a question of who you bring in. It might be a complete dud. So.
Well, they brought in Jimenez, didn't they, from Wolves?
Who no idea why.
No, well, he's. I say the same thing all the time, but I feel sorry for him because of that horrible injury that he had, and he's done well to get back to where he's at. But if we're judging him as a Premier League striker right now, he's not scored for like 25 games. Again, you can't have your striker in that kind of form. And they've got Vinicius there as well, who's not proved it at this level. So they need something. One of their best players this season has been Willian. He's 36 years old, 37, something like that. He's coming to the end of his time. He's kind of on the wane a little bit, and I thought he was probably going off to Saudi Arabia. So they've got Silva on a new contract, but that was a bit of a surprise in itself, I think, really, to be fair. But that possibly might even just be a bargaining tool for when Saudi come calling again. That's just going to cost them more money to prize him out of there. But
Yeah.
Yeah, There's not much to like about Fulham at the minute. Away to Villa next game, which we all know is a very, very tough one. Villa won 12 on the spin at home in the league now. Then home to Wolves, away to Liverpool, and then home to Forest. They're the games kind of coming up for them. So
It's a tough
tough run, really, to be fair. So I think they could be shorter come. Well, this time next week after they get beaten by Villa, but they could. Could be a little bit short. Yeah.
Ryan and Josh, the penalty in the Gladbach game, it denied me another hot dog winner for me yesterday, Jack. 3-1 up they were, but I've got to be honest, they were absolutely battered in the second half. They're such an infuriating team, Gladbach. If they could play properly for 90 minutes, I think they'd be top 5 or 6, but they have too many flat spells in games. The penalty, I think it was a penalty, to be honest. Maybe in the build-up there was like a push on him, but it was a stupid foul. It was the last kick of the game. Both myself and Nigel got done by the last kick of the game. Yesterday.
You get these little spells, don't you? Terrible, real sickening. Say kicking the teeth when you're in that position and it gets done so late on. But
it's
that's where the mental strength comes in. And the fact that you experienced, Nigel's experience as well. We've all been in that situation. You have these runs. You do have to like grit your teeth, not make a joke of it, but you know what I mean. You kind of see it for what it is and move on.
100% that. We're sack race. The Bet Rivers haven't put their odds up yet for next manager out, but I mean this is interesting. For the last however many weeks I've done this show, Paul Heckingbottom has been the clear favourite. I think at one point he was at like minus 500 next out.
Yeah,
he is now. He's actually the second favourite. He's plus money to be next out, Paul Heckingbottom at plus 187. You got to think that win yesterday might give him, I don't know, a month grace perhaps.
Maybe.
And we've got a new favourite in this market, and it's Erik ten Hag.
Wow.
At plus 187, but it's a really open market. Andoni Areola plus 350. Vincent Kompany now into plus 700.
Yeah.
And then Pochettino at plus 2,000. I mean, there's been a lot of money in this market, Jack, because the most recent managerial change was it the second day of the season?
No, pre-season.
Pre-season.
Yeah, so we've not actually had a sack in during the season. This will be the next one will be the first one. Yeah.
So there's a lot of money now tied up. There's a lot of money now tied up in this market. I mean, I'm absolutely convinced during the next international break, at least one manager will be sent their marching orders, probably on the Monday or the Tuesday. It's just a question of who. Where's the value now?
Man United, will they pull the trigger on Ten Hag? I don't think so. Not yet.
He's just won a game. They've just won.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, just won, didn't they? But looking at Burnley's next game, that's away at Arsenal. Then they're at home to West Ham. But then after that, Burnley, Sheffield United on the 2nd of December. That looks huge, doesn't it, at this moment in time? You'd pretty much write off whoever loses that, gone. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Ten Hag is a goner. Look at how United play. Watch them feels like a chore.
He's absolutely right. Maxime is right. It's just a question. I mean, he's got a massive game in the Champions League away at FC Co. I mean, that's the sort of game they just got to get 3 points in. Just say they do. They got Luton at home next week. That's a very winnable fixture. Or the alternative, if you lose against Luton or even draw against them, that could be enough to signal the end. So it's lots of ifs and buts, isn't it, at this point in time? Just a quick one in this half-time. Laidback says, is over 1.5 goals worth it, or he's going to skip the game? I'm not sure. It should be over, shouldn't it? But it's a tight one.
Yeah, it's looking that way at the moment, isn't it? I think Liverpool had a fair few chances in that first half, but Luton's standing strong, and the longer that continues, the more they'll take confidence. So, you mentioned it earlier that you thought it was following a very similar pattern to the Tottenham game, which ended 1-0, albeit Tottenham were down to 10 men, weren't they, for the entire second half? So
tough one. I think I'd overjust, but
yeah, I'd probably sit on my hands for the first 5 minutes of the second half and see how it starts off. And you'd assume we expect it to be one-way traffic a little bit, don't we? But I think see what the reaction is from half time, and then take it from there. Look, if we miss out because there's a goal, I never worry too much about that. If I miss out because there's a goal early and on the overs, then you go, oh well, there's always another opportunity. There'll be plenty more even opportunities today, tomorrow. There's always another bet lurking around the corner for us. So yeah, don't worry too much about missed opportunities. It's better to be. I think I'd rather wait and then go and play, having a bit of visuals on how because it could completely change. From a half time, we've seen it before. Games that this game that you've been talking about in Germany at the moment, it could suddenly.
It can change. It can change. The halftime whistle. I didn't want the halftime whistle.
No,
because it just looked wide open. You can come out. Hopefully, they'll come out guns blazing. But halftime.
The managers are in there for a reason at halftime, aren't they? Going, we're giving them far too many chances. We get too open. This guy's dominating the ball. Go and sit on him, and it does change the dynamic.
It's like this Monaco game now. Monaco come out the second half. They've hardly had the ball in press half. They've sat back. They're not saying they're happy with 1-0, but they know they're up. They know they don't have to go for it. It's Pierre-Lise Malou gets booked for Brest. I swear down, this bloke, I need to back him blind every game to be booked because he always gets carded.
Was it sliding tackle?
Pierre-Lise Malou. He's one of those players you just got to watch out for. But
I know him from a season, don't I? He was at Norwich for a season.
Of course. Yes, you had him there. We don't really talk about Norwich City now on this show, do we, Jack?
Very profitable. They've been very profitable, mate. We don't talk about them on these shows now. We've slipped off the radar, certainly. But very profitable.
What is going on at Norwich City? You lost 3-0 today.
3-1. We've got a goal.
3-1. Sorry, you got a goal. I mean, the other week, I forgot to ask you to mention this the other week, but I certainly know what your choice of gin is these days, and it's Plymouth, isn't it? After that result down on the south coast, yeah, Championship. We don't talk about Championship now, thankfully, as far as Jack is concerned.
You're doing all right. Big win for you on Friday night.
Yeah, I think it looks like probably third place, Jack. But
don't know. Ipswich slipped up as well at the weekend, so a lot of football to be played yet.
A lot of football to be
played. Anyway, we'll move on.
This Saturday race for me, the value. I tell you where the value is.
Go on.
Now, I think Heckingbottom and Ten Hag have got a bit longer. I think they've got until Christmas at least.
Yeah.
It's Iraola or Company, and Company won't be sacked. I don't think he'd be sacked. I think he could walk though. He could definitely walk out the door. He's not changing his way.
No,
of playing. And until they do, I just don't think they've got that squad in the Premier League. To every Burnley match, they make mistakes. It's because of the style.
Yeah.
So they might look nice, but they make mistakes. But this sack race now, it could go in either direction.
Yeah. Well, we've talked up. I was on Heckingbottom pre-season because the stats would suggest that it's normally a newly promoted manager that goes, but normally goes early, and that's not been the case. Obviously, it's still hanging on in there, and I think they'd have got rid of Heckingbottom. They've had lots of opportunity to do that prior to now, haven't they? And now with a win. And a couple of games coming up that are possibly not winnable ones, then, I think you're right that international break, we normally see one in the one that's just gone, but I'd be stunned if we don't see one, as you say, or two.
We will see at least one.
Yeah.
Probably two.
And
it's a good chance.
We talked about Iraola, but they had that win, but it was back to normality yesterday, wasn't it, with a bang, losing 6-1 at City. I think
another manager who I'm sure he's a great coach, but he's not got the players to play that style at Bournemouth in the Premier League.
Exactly right.
So, and those two, I just don't see them lasting long term.
No,
for whatever reason.
I'll be honest. I like Rob Edwards.
Monaco have scored, by the way.
There you go.
You were probably their first shot of the entire second half. So for those who did take the over 2.5 at half time, need one more goal in the last 25 minutes. For that one. But let's move on because we are running out of time. Let's switch to the Bundesliga because there is quite an English connection here. Harry Kane, just
wow.
It's unbelievable goal scoring form. They're still not top of the league.
No.
Remarkably, but they are minus 335 favourites by minute to win the Bundesliga. It looks like a head-to-head with Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen. Now, Harry Kane, what can you say about this guy? I mean, in terms of betting and value, it's all gone now. I mean, if you want to back him any time in the Bundesliga, you are paying ridiculously short odds.
Yeah.
You're looking at backing him for multiple goals. But, I mean, whilst this train is hot, you might as well take him to score 2 or more.
Well, with Bayern Munich, you know what you're getting, aren't you? You're getting goals galore anyway. So it's a match made in heaven. They've got a guy that will finish the chances off as they'd had with Lewandowski. They've now got a Mark II version. possibly even better. The start he's made, and what's he going to get? 40 goals this season?
He's on course for 53. Someone said at current rate. So it's going to be.
I think they'll win the Bundesliga. That's not me going out on a limb saying that. How do you think? Do you think they've got the ability to go and win the Champions League?
I just think they're a little bit soft defensively, to be honest, Jack. I mean, I watched that Darmstadt match last week, and it's just the difference between the top end of the Bundesliga and the bottom end is too vast now for me. I mean, next week it's Bayern against Heidenheim. Brest hit the post again. I don't know how Brest haven't scored in this game, by the way, against Monaco. Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, next week Heidenheim, the handicap is -3 Asian. The goal line's about 4.25. I'm not joking. That could, if Bayern wants it, that could end double figures.
Yeah,
because they're just so much better. But put them against one of the top teams who can get at them defensively. I don't know. I mean, Harry Kane.
Upper Macampo was back yesterday, wasn't he? He was back from injury yesterday. Scored, didn't he, as well? But so that'll help them. But
Manoy's back now, which is good for experience. Quite whether he's the same as he used to be. He's old. He's an old dog now, isn't he? But,
no, he admitted, didn't he? He's no longer Germany's number one during the week. Saying that ter Stegen has now got that shirt, and they've moved on a bit now. But I'm interested with Munich with that game. Obviously, it was a similar situation yesterday, wasn't it, in the EPL with Man City against Bournemouth? And I was surprised I could get on board there with those over 1.5 goals in the first half. So that might be a line of attack for Bayern next week.
Yeah, first half goals, or you just got to work out what sort of hungry mood they're in. But
so goal difference 0-0 at half time in the game you were talking about earlier.
Darmstadt were not too bad in the first half there, I must say. That's why I'd go on the goals line with the Heidenheim match next week. But I almost feel sorry for Seru Girasey, who has a great start on the board. He gets injured. Already he's out to plus 600 to be the top scorer. I mean, any other league, he's probably thinking he can get the golden boot. But Harry Kane's just an absolute monster. Leverkusen, of course, an interesting case. I think it's going to be a close race this season because the top and bottom end of the league is really a vast difference. Union Berlin, we were talking about them on the European preview show this week. Are they valued to be relegated? And we all said no. But they're a big price to go down in Berlin, plus 1,200 with Bet Rivers, and they've lost 12 in a row.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think now that I think they're going to have to get rid of their manager to turn their ship around. But the difference with this market, of course, is to be directly relegated.
Yeah.
You got to finish in the bottom two, which is asking a lot because there are some incredibly poor teams, especially defensively down there.
Yeah.
In the Bundesliga, Jack. So
indeed.
Just one more thing about
rut, isn't it? You lose 12 on the spin. That's not like a little bad streak of form. That's crisis time. Most clubs in any league would have pulled the trigger by now, wouldn't they? 12
they would
straight defeats.
But he's got a lot of credit in the bank. He's got more credit in the bank than Fort Knox, hasn't he? Because of the run he's had there.
Yeah, of course.
So, but I mean, what does it take though? Then
I was then
20 games in a row.
Yeah, for me, when do you go enough's enough? We're going to have to stop this, as you say.
I mean, it will be 13 in a row. I don't see how they get anything at Napoli. I mean, that's a tough game. You can't judge him on that game.
No, but someone's gone for 6-0. Did I see that on the question?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be Napoli are going to be one of the most bet teams this week in the Champions League, no doubt about it. But it's
who's on the Champions League show this week?
Yeah, it'll be myself, Will Wright, RJ, of course, with Dan Roebuck. So we'll be recording that tomorrow.
Nice.
And I'm surprised. Someone I'm sure will be tipping up Napoli in some form.
Yeah.
Although I've not actually looked at the prices, but
my money's on RJ to go for the Georgian Wonder Kid to score at any time.
That's the best way of pronouncing him sometimes, isn't it, Jack? But I want to say one more thing before we move on from the Klassiker yesterday. Yeah. Dortmund were disappointing. Dortmund for me are not. They might be good enough for third or fourth in the league.
Yeah,
I watched them beat Newcastle at St James's Park, and I was like, do you know, I've actually underestimated them a bit. But that's looking like the one-off performance now.
Yeah,
for me with Dortmund, I don't think they're that good this year. They've lost players, and I don't think you can consider them. Really, I don't think they're even in the top two tables of European football this season.
That lad Jude Bellingham is a bit of a miss, wasn't he?
No, it's a big loss. Where shall we move to now? Yeah, France. Let's move to France because another team that, Lyon today, everyone was expecting them to win against Metz. Arguably the worst side in the division, Metz.
Yeah.
But Lyon, again, I thought were terrible. I've got to be honest. Draw was probably fair, but they nearly lost. I tweeted something today that you might have even seen it, where Jean-Michel Aulas used to goad Saint Etienne fans by saying the closest they're going to get to play to Champions League football is on their PlayStations. Well, do you know what? At Lyon, the closest their fans might get to Ligue 1 now is on Football Manager or something, because they're still winless. They haven't won a game of football yet. And we have to ask a serious question, I suppose. Could they go down at plus 400? And I can't believe it, Jack, that I'm going to have to, after that performance today, I'm going to have to consider it.
Where does it turn around? I say Ligue 1's not my forte. Certainly, I lean heavily on two people that I have utmost respect for and know this league inside out. And I very much enjoy hearing their opinions. And you are one of those. You and James Easton are the guys that I kind of lean on, certainly for that side of things. But Lyon, there's a little bit of a gap there, isn't there? I think it was, six or 7 points between them and the kind of playoff place even. So, if they haven't won in 10, 11 games, then that's suddenly a big gap to sort of try and close.
The problem is, I'm not even sure they get another point before Christmas. I'm looking at their fixtures now, genuinely.
Yeah.
The next week, they're away against Rennes, which is a really tough place. Home against Lille, who are going pretty well. Away at Lens, who are in the Champions League. Then they've got the game against Marseille, which was postponed last week. At some point, we're thinking that's going to be early December. Then they've got a home match against Toulouse. That might be the one where that generally might be their next best chance of 3 points, Jack. And then they're away at Monaco before Christmas as well. So they're in a mess. It could be a good actual back to late. I still don't think that they're going to go down over 38 games.
Can I throw a name into the ring that I think you might support to some extent in Strasbourg? What price are we looking at there?
Well, we're looking at now for Strasbourg, plus 800. That's a big price because
your man Patrick Vieira.
You don't watch much Ligue 1 football, but
no,
I can tell you now, Jack. You will know exactly how Strasbourg are playing.
Yeah,
by having just watched Palace under Vieira.
Yeah.
For the last however many years, because it's the same.
Yeah,
I don't get it. He just has no enterprise.
No,
at all. 0-0
this weekend.
It was a 0-0 today against Clermont, who Clermont are not a good footballing team.
Right.
And it's at some point, I think, because they're quite a ruthless management now, they've got Chelsea influence, of course.
Mm-hmm.
They probably will sack him if it looks bleak. So I think Strasbourg would be all right in that respect. But I love Patrick Vieira as a player, but as a manager, I think he's just not. He's not modern enough.
It's always interesting for me when you see managers that had a playing style, that aggressive playing style. He was great on the ball when he was moved well. His vision in passing and was superb. And you assume that characteristic is a inbuilt, and it's then going to go into his management style. But then you see, as you say, I saw him extensively at Crystal Palace, and it was terrible. And listening to you guys talking about what he's done at Strasbourg sounds a carbon copy. So expect them to be fighting it out down the bottom there for as long as he's at the helm.
Before we go, I've got to ask you something here, Jack, because you brought this up on one of the EPL shows recently. Field tilt, right? What exactly? How does field tilt help you as a bettor? This is mostly regarding a lot of high possession teams, Jack. Yeah. How can we get that? How can we use field tilt as an edge in betting?
So I think there's a lot of stats now, isn't there? You can go through some websites and get some, like, everything you really want to know, passes per defensive action and all these different things, which will give you an insight on what you talked about there. Is you can build an idea around how sides play by looking at these stats without actually watching them. We all like to use our eyes, don't we? But you can't watch every single game over 90 minutes across, a variety of divisions. So I think that these sort of stats, there's some that I like to use to look at. a lot of sides these days like to play possession-based football. That's the way it is, isn't it? Coming passing out from the back. You don't really see goalkeepers booming it long anymore. It's the way it is, and that's how people want to play. But we sometimes see possession for possession's sake, and that would mean teams racking up 65%, but their centre-backs having like 150 passes each. You're not going anywhere. You're not going to score goals that way, are you? You know, some sides will sit off deep and say, well, you can have it there and then see if you can break us down. But with field tilt, and Nigel's going to love this, I tell you, I'm waiting for more abuse. I've never said anything on that show that's given me so much, so many comments coming back at me. Even done a meme, especially. I was on it. Even done a meme for it. But field tilt basically tells you where they're having possession and where they have, the majority of the ball. So if you've got a high field tilt, that will mean that you're having the ball further up the field in the opposition territory. You're winning balls back from the high press, and therefore you're obviously more likely to be creating chances and scoring goals. What I like to do, and part of the point I was making within that, was that Tottenham's style of play is now a complete contrast to what we saw for the last probably 2 or 3 managers at Tottenham. Very defensive, bit turgid. We're talking about Patrick Vieira, a similar sort of style. And where you can get an edge as a better is definitely where there's a distinct change of style. And we've seen it with Spurs. They're more front foot, they're attacking, they're winning the ball higher up, they're pressing, they're more shots. Certain data will lead you to that. But I think what then is being where you can get your edge is the fact that it's being priced on historical data. And Spurs is the perfect example of that, where we're used to a certain Spurs style. We see, I mentioned it the other week with cards, that the fact that they're now a bit more of an aggressive side, so they will pick up more yellow cards, and we're used to seeing them. So where they're generally priced based on what they've done in the past, we need to get that edge where we can see that they're actually changing their style and they're now a certain way of playing. And that's where we can get on board. We mentioned it with Villa last season, if you remember rightly, Villa with their offsides, because Emery came in, and where they were used to be playing quite a low line or deep line, they were then playing a very high line, and they were catching loads of sides offside. And that bet still stands. If you look at it today, I know they had quite a few. I'm just quickly trying to see what they had in the end. They caught Nottingham Forest offside 9 times. So I mentioned
6 times, I think, last week, Luton as well. I mean, can you even bet on offsides anymore because of Emery?
Yeah. The line's a little bit higher, but it's still around about normally 3 to 3.5. So
it's insane. Nice. I mean, that it's patterns, isn't it? You get recognised patterns with teams, whatever metrics they've got, and this is how these sort of stats and metrics can help us as bettors.
Exactly right. We laugh and joke about him, especially with Nigel, obviously talking and mocking me for certain things on that. But I do like to look at some of those aspects. And then what I'll certainly do, if, as we expect, there's a couple of casualties in the international break, what I will then do as a bettor will be basically go and do some research on the new managers coming in, how they played, how they set their sides up, where they've been. Is there a certain distinctive pattern of play or a certain metric that keeps happening? Right, let's keep an eye on it for when they then come, because generally the bookies won't quite be certain how to price up these sides, and it will be a little bit based on what they've been getting, what they've been doing already this season. So that's when we can get a bit of an edge. So I'll certainly be looking into that. So as we assume in the international break with a couple of new boys at the helm. Or girls, possibly.
It might be that time of year where Jesse Marsh gets linked with new manager posts. I mean, Bournemouth would suit him. Half of the Leeds team's there. So that would it wouldn't shock me if he came in at some point, or certainly got linked. Well, before we go, some final thoughts on these games. Stuttgart missed a penalty, by the way, while we're talking about field tilt. It seems to be one of those. There's been a lot of. I've not known an afternoon like it across Europe. There's been a lot of missed chances today, Jack. I don't know what's going on, but it's a day where huge opportunities are getting missed. The goal line now, Heidenheim, Stuttgart, is over and under 1. To be honest, the better bet, I think, might actually be on Stuttgart. They're looking more likely now to score a goal, so you could take them on a -1/4 handicap. It does cover for the random 0-0. Luton, Liverpool, it's still 0-0.
Yeah.
An hour in. I mean, we didn't expect this at all. Liverpool, you can back them on the money line at -188 just to win this game. Does that merit consideration?
not been watching it, have we? We talked about this. So, yeah, you've got to say, did you feel Liverpool were going to go and beat Luton today? Yeah. So, therefore, is there anything good a metric that I like to use in play when I'm not watching it, just to see, obviously you got your initial thoughts, but the XG, what chances are they creating? Are they actually creating good chances? I think they've had 12 shots by the looks of it now, 3 on target, XG of 1.07. So you would suggest that they've been fairly decent chances. So I haven't broken down those options. I then flick over and see, was it one massive chance that they've missed, or has it been a kind of steady accumulation of decent chances? With the firepower that Liverpool have got, I think you're getting into that territory, aren't you?
I mean, for them to only have, this is with one book, an expected goals of 1.07 after an hour away against Luton. I think we would have expected higher than that. So I don't know about this game. Weird. Is it for a shock Super Sunday?
Could well be.
Going back to this, the Stuttgart game, you'd have to look at Stuttgart or the goals still. I had no idea how Brest haven't scored against Monaco. There's still 3 minutes left there. It's one of those. I think they've hit the woodwork 3 or 4 times, genuinely. But that's
0-0 in Italy as well. Sometimes. Roma 0, Lecce 0.
Yeah, there's not many goals around for some reason. I think from what I've seen today, there's been chances galore missed.
Yeah,
there's not been bad games. A lot of penalties have been missed today.
Yeah.
For what?
So we're still waiting for that penalty in the Liverpool game that you promised us as well.
Yeah. Maybe it'll come late on when Klopp calls in one of his favours.
Yeah, but I'd have a look at that. Corners in play for me while it stays this tight, because Liverpool will throw the kitchen sink at it, and I think natural would be for Luton just to go a little bit deeper and deeper. And it's a tight pitch there at Kenilworth Road, isn't it? So we could see quite a bit of action late on.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Jack, as always. Thanks for joining us on the live reaction show.
Thanks for having me.
To discuss, as always. And next week, I think I've got RJ on the show before the international break, which is going to be very exciting.
Always worth a listen. I love you two. You've got a nice dynamic together, you two.
I'm just looking forward to seeing RJ's clock again in the background. It's a magnificent clock. He's got his brilliant clock that only comes out on the reaction show. So...
there we go.
Anyway, well, take care, everyone. Remember to gamble responsibly. Best of luck, whatever you're taking for the remainder of the weekend, and we'll see you next week. So goodbye.
Nice one.